members of the human species, and any others who may be here. When I was here last, it was about 18 months ago, and I talked about atheism, and I gave the reasons why atheism was the correct point of view, and that was the beginning of this book, Atheism Explained. So I'm not going to talk about that tonight. If you want to find out why atheism is correct, you buy this book and read it. It's available on Amazon, it's available in Borders. What I want to talk about instead is some of the circumstances surrounding the production of this book and some of the consequences that have ensued in American culture in the last few years. Beginning in 2004, something happened which, like many things that happened, no one had anticipated. There was a spate of atheist bestsellers. The first one was by a completely unknown author, Sam Harris. In 2004, he produced a book called The End of Faith. Then 2 years later, Richard Dawkins, a very well-known author, produced The God Delusion. And last year, Christopher Hitchens, also a very well-known author, produced God Is Not Great. If I can just mention some of the sales figures. The End of Faith to date has sold in the US about 500,000 copies and is now selling 500 per week. The God Delusion, which has been out, of course, 2 years briefer a period of time, has sold 600,000 copies and is now selling 4,000 per week. God Is Not Great, which so far has appeared in cloth only, has sold 500,000 and is selling 750 per week currently. So these are very big sales. This was something absolutely unprecedented. And it's a natural curiosity about why this happened. Those bestsellers have driven many other books that have appeared, including mine. There were things about Sam Harris's book and also Richard Dawkins' book that I didn't like, and I thought I could do better. And I think I have done better with my book. Many books have appeared for atheism, and many books have appeared attacking atheism, attacking what is called the new atheism. And it's become a new industry. And there is a lot of argument back and forth. And one of the things that interests me is if you look at the theist side, which is broadly speaking the Christian side of this, the people who've written books attacking the new atheism, they have an interesting theory. Most of them do. How do they account for this great wave of atheist propaganda that has been hitting the bookstores? A very popular theory that they hold is that atheists are scared because religion is so robust, religion is so resilient, religion has made a comeback, and this has frightened the atheists. So they've been producing these atheist books and reading them and buying them. Marvin Olasky, who is a very intelligent evangelical Christian writer, used the phrase cornered and desperate to describe what he thought was the motivation of the atheists who were writing these books. And many of the authors who've written, Dinesh D'Souza is probably the best known, has written a book, What's So Great About Christianity, and he tries to account for the wave of atheist books. He talks about a Christian comeback, and he says that the atheist books are a response to this Christian comeback. Now, if you just think about the plausibility of this story, there are some things that don't quite add up. I work in publishing, and I can tell you that people have been churning out atheist books, several hundred a year, without any let-up for the past 100 years. And so it's not the production of atheist books that has changed, it's the sales of some of them. Mark Twain, who was an atheist, wrote a book called Letters from the Earth, the blistering attack on religion. And he thought that it would only be safe to publish this 100 years after his death. It actually appeared in the early 70s, I think. And when it appeared, Mark Twain scholars were mildly interested, and nobody else gave a hoot. And Mark Twain was a better writer than Sam Harris, I can tell you. So it just isn't, you can't explain, it seems to me, you can't explain the wave of what's called new atheism by the intentions of the atheists. Public opinion polls repeatedly show that only a few percent of the American population identify themselves as atheists. And even if you add agnostics, you're still talking about less than 5%. People, Americans, if asked, will say they're an atheist or agnostic. So this is a pretty small proportion of the population. So they're not the only people who are buying these atheist books. So what's really going on? I should say this, in case anybody's under any misapprehension, that it's not just the superstar books that have been selling well. Books that you would have expected to have sold 500 copies will now, if they're advocating atheism, will now, or about atheism, will now sell 5,000 copies. That's broadly the picture. There is just a general eruption of discussion of atheism in the United States.